I remember the tiles first, the way they felt like ice against my cheek. The kitchen light was too bright, the sound of the fridge humming too loud, and somewhere above me, Derek's breath came in short, angry bursts. He had slammed me once, then twice, and the corner of the counter had answered with a flash of white pain. I tasted metal. I tried to say please, but my lips wouldn't move right. My vision narrowed to a coin of light on the ceiling, a halo around the flickering bulb. I heard the front door open. A deep voice I didn't know filled the hallway. "Step away from my sister." The world bent out of shape, stretched thin like a drum. Derek cursed under his breath. Heavy boots crossed the living room. The voice came again, firmer, colder, trained. "That's enough." I tried to look, tried to see the face that belonged to that voice, but the light folded in on itself like a fist. Everything drowned at once in a dark, quiet river. The last thing I felt was a hand, steady, careful, shielding my head from the floor. Then nothing. When the darkness opened its fist, I was in a slow world that smelled like antiseptic and boiled sheets. Machines whispered. Something tugged at my arm. A woman's voice floated above me. "Naomi, can you hear me? Naomi, it's Nurse Alicia. You're safe." Safe. The word was a warm blanket someone had forgotten to spread all the way. I tried to pull it up to my shoulders. It landed only at my neck. My eyes fluttered, heavy with sand. A dark shape sat by my bed, silhouetted against a window. The shape wore a hoodie and a cap pulled low. Broad shoulders, a scar tracing the jawline. He rose when I blinked, like he had been waiting for the small wave my eyelashes made. "Don't rush it," the nurse said. "There you go, just keep breathing. We're right here with you." The man stepped closer. His voice was gentle now, careful like he was handling a cracked bowl. "Hey, sis!" My chest squeezed. That voice, the echo from the kitchen, wrapped around my name like a promise. He took off the cap. Under the fluorescent glow, I saw eyes that matched mine, a nose that could have been carved out of the same memory, and the shadow of a smile that I knew from another life. It couldn't be. "Savannah," I whispered, but it came out like air leaking from a balloon. My throat burned. He nodded once, jaw tight. "It's me." I tried to reach for him, but wires and pain held me down. The room tilted, then settled. For a second, the beeping sped up, and Nurse Alicia's face leaned in. "Easy, Naomi. You've had a concussion. Some internal bruising. You came in last night. You were lucky." Lucky. The word landed wrong. If this was luck, what did unlucky look like? My vision steadied on the man at my side. My little brother, the one we had buried with prayers and tears 3 years ago when his unit went quiet overseas, was standing in a hospital room in Atlanta, calling me sis. No letter, no phone call, no grave. How? The memories shuffled like a deck of worn cards, and one rose to the top. The kitchen, the light, Derek's breath, the front door, the command. "Step away from my sister." I closed my eyes against the sting. "Derek," I managed. "Alive," Nurse Alicia said carefully. "He's in custody. The police have questions for you, but not today." Savannah, Toby, the name that fit my mouth when we were kids, sat back down and stretched his fingers, like he'd been gripping something too hard. There were scars across his knuckles. An army bracelet circled his wrist, faded and frayed. He studied me the way a soldier studies a map, quiet, taking in the edges before the center. "I got back 2 weeks ago," he said, voice low. "The army, it's complicated. I'll explain when you're stronger." The words hovered, heavy and light at the same time. 2 weeks. He had been in the same city while I was counting change at the gas station, saving coupons for rice and palm oil, layering makeup over purple marks I lied about. 2 weeks while I told myself things would get better if I just kept the house cleaner, cooked the jollof the way his mother liked, spoke softer, walked smaller. 2 weeks while I kept photographs of our childhood, of our mother's hands braiding my hair, and Toby teasing the goat at Auntie Sade's yard, hidden behind a stack of plates Derek never touched. It is hard to tell the truth about a marriage that tries to make you forget your own name. But here is mine. I met Derek at church, the new light on Auburn Avenue. He smiled like a man with a plan. He could lead a room with his shoulders, could tilt a conversation so you felt grateful for his approval, even when he said nothing at all. He worked in car sales. He called me his piece, said my laugh was his favorite song. He pressed his face into my neck and swore I was safe with him. I wanted that to be true so badly that I let it become true in my mouth before it ever became true in my life. The first time he grabbed my wrist too hard, he apologized with flowers and a weekend trip to Stone Mountain. The second time, he cried. The third time, he didn't. Abuse rarely starts like thunder. It slides in on a quiet day and sits down like a guest. I gave it tea because I had been trained to be polite. My mother used to say, "Naomi, you and Toby are each other's mirror. When you forget yourself, find him." But when the army told us Toby was gone, I folded that mirror into a small square and hid it in the back of a drawer. I learned how to smile with only my teeth. I learned how to walk through the house listening for the creak in the floor that warned me where he stood. The night before the kitchen, Derek's mother had visited. She had said words like obedience and proper wife and handed me a list of things I was failing at. When she left, Derek asked why I embarrassed him by crying. I said I was tired. He said men get tired too. I said I would try harder. He said I should. Then the morning came, and the eggs were slightly oversalted, and a text pinged my phone from Kayla at work, asking if I was okay because she hadn't seen me in 2 days. I silenced it, but he saw. Men like Derek know the shape of every small lie. When I finally opened my eyes for longer than a blink, Toby had pulled his chair closer. He held my hand with two of his like he was afraid he might break me by accident. His voice softened into the one he used to use when I fell off my bike on Samuel Street. "I shouldn't have left you alone," he said, and guilt flickered across his features like lightning. "I didn't know where you were. You were dead," I whispered, the word cracking. "We mourned you." He looked at the floor. "I was elsewhere. Long story, short attention from the right people. I'll tell it all, I promise." Outside the window, Atlanta woke up. A MARTA bus sighed at a red light. Someone laughed in the hallway. A short, bright sound that felt rude inside the soft quiet of our room. My head throbbed with every heartbeat, a drum reminding me I still had work to do inside my own body if I wanted to keep it. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now," Tobe said, lifting his eyes to mine. "You rest. I've already filed a report. You won't go back to that house. I talked to Pastor Ruth. She's arranging a place for you and a lawyer, and Naomi. I saw some things in there." "In where?" "In the house." His jaw clenched. He had a safe behind the pantry wall. Photos, papers, a list with your name next to numbers. There's more to this than just his temper. A cold wind moved through the room, though the window was shut. I swallowed. "What do you mean, numbers?" He shook his head. "Later." Nurse Alicia returned with a clipboard and a gentle smile that had done this before. "You're stable. The doctor wants another scan at noon. After that, we'll bring in a social worker. No visitors other than family for now." She glanced at Toby's bracelet and gave him a small nod of respect. "We'll keep you comfortable." When she left, Toby leaned in. "Naomi, I need you to trust me. I didn't just come back. I came back watching. Something about Derek smelled wrong before I even touched the doorknob. He wasn't just angry. He was scared." "Of what?" "Of losing something," Tobe said, "or of someone finding it." I closed my eyes and an image rose. The pantry door, the place I stored bags of beans and spare cooking oil, the patch of wall I had cleaned so many times I could draw its stains from memory. How many secrets can hide inside a house you live in every day? The beeping steadied. My breath found a slow rhythm. I wanted to sleep, to step into a soft dark that didn't kill the light at the end. But a shadow filled the doorway. Not Nurse Alicia, not the doctor. A man in a gray suit, badge glinting at his belt, paused with a notebook in his palm. He looked at Tobe, then at me. "Mrs. Johnson," he said, "Detective Miles, when you're able, we have questions about your husband and about a deposit he made yesterday morning." "Deposit?" I asked, voice fraying. "We don't have." "Ma'am," he said gently, eyes sliding to Tobe. "It was for $85,000. My heart stumbled. Money like that didn't pass through our lives. Derek always said we were stretched thin. that I should work more hours. My mouth went dry. I turned to my brother, the one who had come back from the dead with a soldier's stare and a promise to hold. Where did he get that kind of money? I asked. Tobe's gaze sharpened. He opened his mouth to answer, but a second shadow spilled across the floor, long and familiar. A voice I knew too well cut the sterile air like a knife, rough and low from the hallway just beyond the door. I'm here to see my wife. Derek, out of custody, in this hospital, and he wasn't alone. Another voice, calm, precise, followed his. Mr. Johnson, stay where you are. We need to discuss the footage from your kitchen. Footage? I gripped the sheet. Toby stood, not to run, not to fight, but to form a wall. The detective stepped forward, hand raised. A nurse's alarm chirped at the station. The hallway buzzed alive. From the corner of my eye, I saw a red light on a small black device perched high near the ceiling, one I had never noticed before. Blinked twice like a quiet eye waking up. And just as the door handle began to turn, a text lit up on Tobe's phone. It was from an unknown number. 4 words, tight and clean. You're late. She knows. The door didn't fully open. A palm hit it from the hallway and held it there while voices tangled. Derek's anger, the calm baritone of the detective, a nurse insisting on rules. Tobe shifted his weight, not bracing for a fight, just becoming a wall that knew its purpose. Detective Miles slid into the room first, wedged steady, and pulled the door closed behind him so the knob sat quiet in his hand. Mr. Johnson will wait in the hall, he said, eyes meeting mine to check if I understood. Hospital policy, and I have a few things to clarify, if you're up to it. I swallowed past sand. I can try. Tobe's phone glowed again in his palm. The message, you're late. She knows. Burned like a match head. He turned it screen down on his thigh. First, Miles said, about the footage. We have video from your kitchen covering the last 10 days. It shows a pattern. Last night it shows an attack. You were unconscious when your brother entered and shielded you. Then he called 911. The camera was placed legally by a family member with consent from a concerned party. That's why we could use it. Concerned party. My eyes moved to Tobe. He didn't look away. I installed it 3 days ago, he said. High in the corner. Motion activated, cloud upload. Pastor Ruth had a spare from the church daycare. I had a bad feeling, Naomi. I didn't want to walk in on your ghost. A small sound left me, half laugh, half sob. Of all the rooms I'd scrubbed, of all the corners I knew like my own palms, I had missed a black dot of mercy blinking red above a cabinet I climbed to reach the time. Detective Miles opened his notebook, flipped to a marked page, then tucked the book away like it wasn't meant for now. Second, the deposit. 85,000 cashier's checks, 3 of them, into an account controlled by your husband. The source is a premium refund routed through an intermediary. We're tracing the path, but the policy number's here. He slid a paper toward Tobe so he could hold it at an angle I could read. Numbers marched across it like small soldiers. Under them, my maiden name sat in crisp letters. The beneficiary line carried Derek's full name. My chest tightened. I never bought a policy, I whispered. We can barely. It appears you didn't, Miles said carefully. The application is questionable. It was opened online 6 months ago and signed with a stylus. The ID uploaded matches yours, but the address is different by 1 number. The policy was set to increase in value if certain hospital codes appeared. Hospital codes. The room felt colder. My hand wanted to find the line of the IV and tear it out. To stand upright just so I could prove to the paper that I existed outside of it. What does she knows mean? Tobe asked without preamble, picking up his phone again. His voice had drifted from warm to military cool, that clipped economy that had sounded too cold in a game of tag and exactly right in a crisis. Detective, do you mind if I return a text? It may be connected. Miles nodded. Please do. And, Sergeant? Staff Sergeant, Tobe said, eyes still scanning the screen. He hesitated, then added, Former, I'm on terminal leave. Miles gave him the kind of once-over that cataloged without judging. Staff Sergeant, I'm glad you were there. The door opened an inch. A hospital security guard's head poked in. Detective, Mr. Johnson is getting loud. Says he's calling his lawyer. Good, Miles said. Have him call his lawyer. The head disappeared. The door clicked shut. For a breath, the room fell into the soft sounds of a hospital morning. Wheels, murmurs, the distant cough of a machine. I watched Toby text with both thumbs, the way he used to type essays at the library, brow knit in focus. He sent, "Who is this?" Then, "What does she know?" The typing dots came fast, then stopped, then came again. No reply landed. "How are you alive?" I asked. The question that had been sitting like a stone in my throat since he took off his cap. It slipped out before I could decide to hold it longer. "We held a service. We buried your uniform." Toby's hand stilled. He looked at me the way you look at the road right before the curve you've been dreading. "We shouldn't derail the immediate," he said gently, "but you deserve the headline. My unit was hit. 2 of us survived. We were moved, then reassigned off the books for a time. I was stateside 6 months ago, but I couldn't contact anyone without making things worse. I'm here now. I'm not leaving again." The thin string of anger I'd wound around grief snapped and fell. Behind it, relief stood awkwardly, like a guest who arrived late and didn't know where to put their hands. I nodded once. That would be enough for this room. Detective Miles drew a slow breath. "Naomi, separate from the assault. We're investigating a scheme targeting women who appear vulnerable. Working class, isolated, with partners who control finances. Policies opened in their names, beneficiaries set, a carrot of premium refund dangled to keep the partner quiet until the big payout. We've seen 2 deaths we can't undo. 2 deaths. The words clanged. My stomach turned. "How does Derek tie in?" Toby asked. "Phone records? Dealership connections? A co-worker named Imani who resigned last week after flagging transactions? She's scared. She's also the likely she in your text, Staff Sergeant. She says she sent evidence to a prepaid phone she believed belonged to you. If so, someone else saw it first. You're late. She knows." The message felt heavier now, weighted with a stranger's courage. I slid my tongue against the roof of my mouth to hold back the bile of fear. "Does he walk if there's a lawyer?" I asked, hearing the thinness in my own voice. "Not today," Miles said. "The assault alone, captured on video, holds him. The financial crimes widen the lens. But this is bigger than one man losing his temper. He's a door into a hallway. We'll need your help to find the rooms." Memory didn't ask permission. It just arrived. I saw Derek at church, the way he hugged the ushers like brothers, slipped envelopes just right, stayed late to stack chairs he never lifted. I saw his mother, Eve, with her big hats and bigger judgments. I saw the day she handled our marriage certificate like it had been her idea first. The safe behind my pantry wall hummed in my ears. "He kept a ledger," I said. "I dusted around it for months, thought it was an extra shelf panel. When I touched it, he told me to leave his tools alone. There were lists, surnames with dates, mine with numbers I didn't understand." Tobe nodded, filing it away. "We're going back to that house," and he told Miles. "With you." "Not without a warrant," Miles corrected, "but there was agreement under it. We're working on it. In the meantime, we'll relocate you after the scan. There's a safe location arranged." "Pastor Ruth?" I asked. He nodded. "And another partner." The door cracked again, but it wasn't security this time. Nurse Alicia slid in with fresh gauze and a whisper of latex. Her eyes swept my monitors, my face the set of my shoulders. "How's your pain?" she asked, adjusting the flow of something clear and important. "Manageable," I said. She turned to Miles. "Detective, there's someone asking for you at the desk. Says she's Imani. Says she has what you're looking for and won't hand it to anyone else." Miles was already moving. "Bring her to Conference B, Staff Sergeant. Stay with your sister. Naomi, I'll be right down the hall. Do not open this door for anyone who isn't wearing a badge or a cross with a name tag that says Alicia." His attempt at soft humor landed like a blessing. Then he was gone, the laminar flow of hall noise closing over him. Toby exhaled. "We're going to be okay," he said. "Do you believe me?" I wanted to say yes because he was here, and his presence turned the air from glass into water. I wanted to say yes because the alternative felt like the floor opening. "I want to," I said. "I want to very much." We sat like that for a minute that felt like a small porch in a rainstorm. Then my phone, a cheap black slab that had survived drops and silences, vibrated on the tray. The screen lit with a number I didn't know. It vibrated again and again. 5, 6, 7 times. The insistence of someone who believes persistence can make a lie true. "Don't," Tobe said quietly. I let it buzz until it stopped. It started again. Finally, it went still. The room breathed. A shadow moved across the frosted glass panel in the door, slow and deliberate. 2 shadows, actually, one tall, one with the stiff outline of a hat. The handle jiggled, then settled. A second later, there was a polite knock, the kind you use when you want to seem harmless. "Mrs. Johnson," a woman's voice called, warm molasses with a blade in it. "It's me, Mama Eve. Open the door, dear. Let's pray." Every muscle in my body locked. Toby stood, already shaking his head. "No," he said, positioning himself where the door would swing if it opened. Another voice layered under hers, smoother, like a practiced salesman weaving silk through wire. "We just want what's best," Derek said. "Baby, let me fix this. We'll talk like family." Nurse Alicia's steps were quick, sure. "Sir, ma'am, you cannot be here," she said from the hall, all sugar turned to iron. "Security!" The hat shadow turned, blocking the window's light. Then a third voice, breathless, urgent, cut through them all from farther down the corridor. "Detective! They know the noon code! Check the system!" The lights in our room flickered once, then steadied. The small black device near the ceiling blinked twice, steady red to blinking, like an eye trying not to close. Tobe's phone pinged at the same instant. A new text from the unknown number arrived, a photo this time. It showed a screen with my name spelled correctly, my date of birth, and a status line queued up but unsent. The cursor blinked beside a word I had only ever allowed in prayers for other people. Deceased. Under the image, a message landed like a stone at the bottom of a well. They will try before noon. If the system updates, the second payout triggers. Look at the IV. Check the bag. It's not just the policy. Tobe's eyes snapped to the drip line at my side, then to the small injection port where a clear syringe had been capped. His hand hovered over the call button, then slammed it. In the hallway, someone in scrubs turned toward our door. Glasses, mask, head down, badge flipped backward on a lanyard. They reached for the handle with a gloved hand, posture too calm for the alarm that had just been raised. And as the door began to open, I realized with a cold certainty that the most dangerous person in that moment wasn't Derek shouting in the corridor. It was the one who had already stepped into my room. The woman in scrubs stepped fully into the room, the door clicking softly behind her. Her head stayed bowed, her glasses catching only a sliver of light. Her badge dangled backward, hiding the name. The gloves on her hands were a shade too dark, not hospital-issue blue, but something bought at a hardware store. Tobe moved first. His arm shot out like a barrier, palm forward. "Stop right there!" The woman didn't pause. She reached casually for the IV pole, her voice muffled but steady. "Just a routine check, Mrs. Johnson. You need a change in dosage." "Badge," Toby snapped, stepping between her and the bed. "Flip it." She smiled then, and it wasn't a nurse's smile. It was too slow, too sharp, like a blade wrapped in silk. "You soldiers always were suspicious." He grabbed her wrist before she could touch the line. The syringe cap rolled across the tile with a sound that carried more menace than shouting. She twisted, fast, trained. This wasn't some ordinary imposter. The move she used was military, not medical. "Tobe!" I cried, my voice hoarse. He pinned her arm against the wall. The syringe clattered at their feet, half filled with something clear. "Who sent you?" he demanded. From the hallway, voices rose. Eve's sharp pitch, Derek's deeper insistence, Nurse Alicia calling for backup. A crash echoed down the corridor. The building felt alive with struggle. The woman leaned close enough for me to see the scar curling under her chin. Her whisper was aimed at Tobe, but I heard it too. "You're already too late. Noon is written in ink." Then she drove her knee up, breaking his hold, and bolted for the door. Toby shoved the IV stand in her path. Metal clanged against tile, and she stumbled, just enough for him to snatch her lanyard. The badge spun free. He read it jaw tight. Private contractor, he muttered. Blackwell Security. Detective Miles burst in just then, breath short, Imani at his side clutching a folder. 2 hospital guards followed, tasers drawn. The woman in scrubs slipped past them, impossibly fast, and was gone down the corridor before anyone could react. The alarm of an emergency exit screamed seconds later. Miles snapped at the guards. Lock this floor down. Nobody in or out without my clearance. He turned to us, eyes hard. What happened? She tried to switch her IV, Tobe said, pointing to the syringe. Check it. A guard bagged it quickly, sealing the evidence. Miles' face darkened. This isn't just domestic violence anymore, he said. This is attempted murder tied to organized fraud. You're in the middle of something much larger. Imani stepped forward, shaking but resolute. Detective, I told you. Derek wasn't working alone. The dealership's just a front. They're laundering through policies, payouts, staged accidents. I brought proof. She held out the folder, her fingers trembling. Miles opened it briefly. Inside were copies of contracts, ledger pages, and photographs of meetings in back rooms. Each paper carried names. Some I recognized, most I didn't. At the bottom of one page was mine again, my maiden name circled in red. They called you the final test case, Imani said, her voice barely above a whisper. If it worked on you, they'd roll out 10 more women. Derek was in deep. Naomi, he was... She stopped, glancing at Toby, then back at me. He was never just your husband. The weight of it pressed down, heavier than any bruise. My marriage, my home, my years, just another ledger entry in someone's scheme. The hospital lights flickered again. Tobe's phone buzzed once more. Another text from the same unknown number. She's not the only plant. Watch the cameras. Noon is closer than you think. And then, almost as if to prove the message right, every monitor in my room went black at the same time. The beeping stopped. The screen by my bed dimmed into silence. The hospital had gone dark. Only the red blinking eye in the corner camera remained, staring at us in the sudden quiet. The sudden darkness was suffocating. No beeping from the monitors. No hum from the overhead lights. Just the faint wail of alarms down the hall and the distant rush of panicked voices. The red blink of the hidden camera was the only steady pulse in the room, like a watchful eye refusing to close. Stay down, Naomi, Toby ordered, his voice sharp, soldier strong. He was already moving, pressing the call button uselessly before ripping it off the wall when nothing responded. Backup generators should have kicked in by now. This blackout isn't an accident. Detective Miles pulled out his flashlight, sweeping the beam across the room. They've tampered with the system. They're trying to blind us before noon. He turned to the guards. Secure the patient. Nobody, and I mean nobody, comes through that door unless it's me. Imani clutched her folder tighter, eyes darting to every shadow. This is what I warned about. They don't leave loose ends. Derek isn't just one man. He's part of a machine. They'll burn the whole hospital down if they think it'll erase their trail. Her words sank deep into my chest. Burn the hospital? Erase me. All I wanted was to breathe freely again, to live without fear in my own skin. Yet here I was, tethered to a bed, my life hanging on the rhythm of a system someone else controlled. From the hallway came the sharp sound of boots on tile. Too heavy, too quick. Not hospital staff, not patients. Toba's shoulders tensed. Incoming. Miles pressed his back to the wall, weapon drawn. The guards did the same, nerves buzzing in the stillness. The door rattled once, then twice. A fist pounded against it. Open up! Code response! A voice shouted. Tobe's eyes narrowed. If it's real code response, they'll have the override key. He glanced at me, his hands steadying the IV pole as if ready to use it as a weapon. The pounding stopped. Silence. Then a scraping sound like metal on metal slid into the lock. They're picking it, Miles muttered. Not staff. I gripped the blanket tight against me, my heart hammering so loud I thought they'd hear it outside. The lock clicked once, twice. Suddenly, a blinding flash of emergency lights flickered on across the hall, powered by some backup reserve. The door burst open just as the hallway lit up, and in that flash I saw them. 2 men in tactical gear, faces hidden behind masks. each with gloved hands and something tucked beneath their vests. But the emergency light caught them off guard. The first man cursed, shielding his eyes. The second froze when he saw Miles' weapon aimed square at his chest. "Drop it!" Miles barked. One did, the other didn't. The next second shattered into chaos. Boots scuffling, the sharp echo of a taser crackling, Imani screaming. Toby lunged forward like he was back on the battlefield, slamming one man into the wall with the weight of years of combat. The folder scattered across the floor, papers fluttering like desperate wings. I wanted to close my eyes, to disappear into the bed, but something inside me refused. I had lived too long in silence. Too long pretending submission kept me safe. Not anymore. Not with my brother back. Not with proof in my sight. "Naomi!" Imani shouted from the floor, reaching for a paper near my bed. "Grab it!" With trembling fingers, I snatched the sheet before it slid under the frame. My eyes skimmed the words, my pulse faltering. It was a payout schedule. Names lined the left side, numbers on the right. Each name had an X except mine. And at the bottom in bold red ink, it read, "Final deadline, 12 p.m. I looked at the clock on the wall. It was 11:23 a.m. The fight in the room blurred into noise. I held that paper like it was fire. Everything Derek had done, every bruise, every lie, every whispered apology, was just scaffolding for this, for money, for blood. Tobe finally slammed one man to the ground, Miles cuffed the other, and the guards dragged them out with curses and groans. The room settled into panting silence. Tobe wiped sweat from his brow, his chest heaving. "Naomi," he said, his voice steadier than his eyes, "we've got less than 40 minutes to stop whatever they planned." Miles pocketed the payout sheet. "And if we don't, this hospital will mark you as gone before you ever get the chance to walk out." The weight of his words pressed down, suffocating, but Tobe's hand on mine anchored me. "Not while I'm here," he promised. The red blink of the hidden camera flashed twice again, almost like a warning. And for the first time I realized, it wasn't just recording us, it was watching for them. What would you have done in Naomi's place? Fight to see the truth in that paper, or hide and wait for rescue? Tell me in the comments. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more gripping African folktales, and share it with your friends. The paper shook in my hands like a living thing. Its ink was no longer just numbers and names. It was a ledger of death, a list of women like me whose lives had been reduced to payouts. My name sat unmarked, a target waiting for a strike. The word deadline, 12 p.m., burned into my eyes, each minute pulling closer like a hunter's arrow. The hospital room felt like a trap disguised as safety. Even with Detective Miles pacing near the door, Tobe standing tall with his soldier's stare, and Imani clutching her folder as though it were her own heartbeat, the air carried the weight of something unfinished. I could feel it in the quiet clicks of the red light above us, in the humming silence of the machines that still hadn't restarted, and in the faint metallic taste in the back of my throat. Toby leaned close, lowering his voice so that only I could hear. "Naomi, listen, this isn't just about Derek anymore. This scheme, it's bigger, dirtier. If they're desperate enough to send people in here with syringes, then they're scared. And when men like Derek are scared, they're dangerous." I tried to nod, but the bruises along my neck protested. My voice cracked when I whispered back. "Why me, Toby? Why us?" "Because you were easy to isolate," Imani said from across the room. Her voice trembled, but her words carried the conviction of someone who had seen too much. "They look for women who don't have family near, women who can't ask for help without shame shadowing their voices. You were perfect for him to control and perfect for the payout. But what they didn't count on was this." She gestured to Toby. "Your brother coming back." Her words struck deep. Perfect for him to control, perfect for the payout. For years I had thought my silence was survival. I told myself I was protecting the marriage, protecting Derek's reputation, even protecting my own pride. But in truth, I had been feeding the machine that wanted me gone. Detective Miles broke the heavy pause. "We can't stay in this room. If they're watching the cameras, they'll try again before noon. We need to move her to a secure floor." "Move her?" Toby shook his head. Not until I've checked that IV line myself. He bent low, scanning the tubing, the capped syringe still sealed in a guard's evidence bag. His soldier's eyes were precise, tracing the line like it was a trail in the desert. Finally, he looked at me. It's clear, for now, but we can't risk staying here. Miles nodded. There's a service stairwell 3 doors down. No cameras. If we can get her there, we'll move her 2 floors down to an isolation ward. It's used for high-profile witnesses sometimes. I swallowed hard. And Derek? Almost as if my words summoned him, his voice echoed down the hallway, muffled by distance but dripping with rage. Naomi, baby, listen to me. Don't let them turn you against me. I did everything for us. His mother's voice followed, sharp and commanding. Open this door, child. You're disgracing our family. What wife calls the police on her husband? What wife takes her marriage before outsiders? The bile in my throat rose. Even in this moment, with my life dangling on a wire, they were framing me as the shameful one. My body trembled, but my brother's steady presence held me together. Ignore them, Tobe said firmly. Their voices are just chains trying to hold you down. We're cutting those chains now. Miles cracked the door just enough to peek out. We move in 1 minute. Guards, you take point. Staff Sergeant, you're her shield. I'll follow with Imani. Once we're in the stairwell, we don't stop until we're locked in. The plan was clear. My heart, however, was not. Every beat felt like it wanted to climb out of my chest and run before me. My legs were weak, my body heavy, but I knew this was no time to collapse. I wasn't just walking out of a hospital room. I was walking out of a life that had been scripted for my death. The guards opened the door. The hallway was a river of shadows under flickering emergency lights. The alarms had faded, replaced by the distant shouts of staff trying to manage chaos on other floors. Go, Miles whispered. We moved. Each step was a mountain. Tobe's hand was firm against my back, guiding me forward, shielding me with his body. The guards flanked us, scanning corners, their tasers ready. I could hear the crinkle of papers in Imani's folder behind me. Each rustle a reminder that evidence existed, that proof lived on beyond Derek's lies. Halfway to the stairwell, we froze. A figure stood at the end of the corridor, not a stranger. Derek. His suit was rumpled, his tie loose, but his presence was unmistakable. His eyes locked on mine with the intensity of a predator. Naomi, he said, his voice soft now, almost tender. Don't do this. Don't walk away. You think they care about you? They'll use you, discard you. But me? I'm your husband. We built a life together. Tobe cut him off, his voice like steel. Step back, Derek. You don't talk to her anymore. Derek's eyes flicked to Toby, narrowing with a venom that could poison stone. And you, the ghost brother. I should have known you'd ruin everything. You always thought you could protect her. Where were you when she cried herself to sleep, huh? Where were you when she begged for mercy? Tobe's jaw clenched, but he didn't rise to the bait. His arm pressed firmer against me. I'm here now, and that's enough. For a moment, Derek's mask cracked. I saw it in his twitching jaw, the vein throbbing at his temple. Then he smiled, a cold, cruel smile. You think you've won? You don't even know who's pulling the strings. I was just the entry point. The real game is bigger than me, bigger than her, bigger than this hospital. He stepped closer, ignoring the guard's warnings. Naomi, if you walk away now, you're not just walking away from me. You're walking into a fire you can't put out. His words sent a chill through me, but I held Toby's gaze. My brother's eyes told me what I needed to know. Derek's fire had no power if I refused to feed it. The guards stepped forward, blocking Derek's path. Miles barked an order, and in seconds Derek was restrained, his wrists cuffed behind his back. Still, he kept talking, his voice echoing down the hall as they dragged him away. It won't matter. The system will mark her dead at noon. You can't stop it. His laughter followed us into the stairwell, a haunting echo that clung to my skin. We descended 2 flights, every step heavier than the last. By the time we reached the isolation ward, my body was shaking from exhaustion. The room they led me into was bare, with reinforced doors and no windows. A cot, a chair, and a single desk lamp were all it held. It was safer, yes, but it felt like a prison. Tobe crouched beside me, his hand steady on mine. We've bought time. That's all we needed. Now we figure out how to cut this at the root. Miles entered, his face pale but determined. He set Imani's folder on the desk. The names in here connect to 3 other states. This isn't just insurance fraud. It's organized crime with military precision. And Derek wasn't lying about one thing. The system is scheduled to process her as deceased at noon. My chest tightened. So what happens if it does? Then, Miles said grimly, the payout triggers. And once that money moves, they'll erase every trail, including you. Silence fell heavy in the room. Noon was no longer just a deadline. It was a guillotine. Tobe straightened, his soldier's focus burning in his eyes. Then we have 30 minutes to find the person inside this hospital who has access to that system. Someone planted, someone feeding it false codes. And we're not leaving until we do. I stared at the clock. 11:30 a.m. 30 minutes to save my name, my life, and maybe the lives of every other woman on that list. The red camera light blinked twice again. Watching, warning, waiting. And I knew with a cold certainty that the person who could stop this wasn't out there. They were already in here. The clock ticked louder than my heartbeat. 11:30 a.m. to 12 noon. 30 minutes. That was all the time left before some unseen hand could erase me from the world with one keystroke. The isolation ward was dim, the desk lamp throwing a circle of pale light across Imani's folder. Papers lay spread like bones on a diviner's mat, each one pointing to a pattern none of us fully understood. I sat on the cot, my body trembling with both fear and exhaustion, but my mind was awake in ways it had never been before. Toby paced like a caged lion, his boots silent against the floor. His soldier's instincts were alive now. Every shadow in the room, every sound in the hallway sharpened his focus. Miles leaned over the folder, scribbling quick notes into his pad, his face tight with urgency. Imani sat cross-legged on the floor, sorting the papers by name, her lips moving silently as if she were reciting prayers. "We're missing something," Miles muttered. "They couldn't fake a hospital death code without inside help. Someone in administration, IT, or even medical records is dirty. We need to figure out who." "Or what," Imani corrected softly. "These aren't just people. These are systems. They buy influence. They build back doors. By the time we're pointing fingers, they're already moving the money." Her words hit me hard. For years, I had thought Derek's fists were the storm, but now I was realizing he was just rain from a cloud that belonged to something larger, darker. Toby stopped pacing, his eyes locked on me. "Naomi, you lived with him. You saw things. Did he ever mention names? Strange calls? Anything unusual in the past 6 months?" I closed my eyes, forcing myself to remember. Nights when Derek came home late, the smell of expensive cologne clinging to his suit, the way he'd slip receipts into his wallet before I could glance at them. I remembered the way he guarded the pantry wall, the ledger hidden behind it, and how sometimes he would disappear into his car in the driveway, speaking in hushed tones on the phone while staring at the house, as though making sure I stayed inside. "There was one thing," I whispered. "He mentioned a name once. Blackwell. Said it was security work he was consulting on. But it didn't make sense. Derek was a car salesman, not a security expert." Miles' pen froze. "Blackwell Security? That's not a local firm. That's a private contractor with federal contracts. Expensive, secretive, and very selective. If they're tied to this," he shook his head, "then this isn't just fraud. This is corruption at a level that reaches into places we don't want to imagine." Imani's eyes widened. "That's who sent the nurse. The woman in scrubs. She had a Blackwell badge." Tobe's jaw tightened. "Then we're in deeper trouble than we thought." The room fell into silence again. The kind of silence that isn't empty, but full of dread, full of possibilities none of us wanted to name. I tried to speak, but my throat burned. "So what happens to me? Even if you stop Derek, even if you trace the money, what happens if the system still marks me dead?" Miles looked at me with something like pity in his eyes. "Then we'll have to fight harder than paperwork. But if it goes through, every bank, Every insurance company, even government databases, will treat you as gone. You'll be a ghost walking. The thought chilled me. To be alive but erased, to walk through the world as though I no longer existed. I clutched the blanket tighter, my fingers digging into the fabric. Toby crouched in front of me, his voice soft but firm. That's not happening, Naomi. I didn't fight my way back here. I didn't break silence for months just to lose you to a screen. We'll find who's behind it, and we'll stop them before that clock strikes 12. Something in his voice steadied me. For the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't alone carrying the weight. But the reprieve didn't last. The overhead intercom crackled suddenly, static filling the room. Then a voice, smooth and calm, poured through the speakers. Mrs. Johnson, time is short. If you step away from those protecting you and meet us quietly, you'll live. If not, well, even a system can be convinced to see what it wants. Tick-tock. The line went dead. Every head in the room snapped up. That wasn't hospital staff, Miles said. His face had drained of color. That was patched into the PA system from outside. They're inside the building, Tobe growled, standing tall again, his fists clenched tight. They're playing games. Amani dropped her papers, her hands trembling. This is what they do. They don't just attack. They manipulate. They break your spirit before they strike. Don't listen. Don't give them what they want. But her words couldn't erase the chill crawling down my spine. Whoever had spoken knew my name, my room, my time. They weren't threatening from a distance. They were close, too close. Miles checked his watch. 11:40 a.m., 20 minutes left. Okay, he said, his voice firm. We don't wait for them. We go on offense. There's one place in this hospital they'd have to be if they're controlling the system. The IT hub in the basement. It's where the servers are. If they've planted someone, that's where they'll be. Tobe nodded immediately. Then that's where we're going. No, Miles countered. Naomi stays here with one guard. The rest of us go. I shook my head violently. No, if this is about me, I'm not staying behind like a lamb waiting for slaughter. If I sit here, they'll find another way in. If I walk with you, at least I'll see what's coming. For a moment they argued. Tobe wanted me close. Miles wanted me hidden. Imani wanted the evidence protected above all. Finally, Toby made the call. She comes. If something happens down there, at least I'll be there to cover her. Leaving her behind is worse. Miles hesitated, then nodded. Fine. But we move fast. No distractions. They gathered the papers, stuffed them into the folder, and armed the guards with tasers. Tobe gripped my hand as we stepped back into the stairwell. The descent into the basement felt like walking into the belly of something alive, something waiting. The air grew colder, the hum of machines louder. At the bottom of the stairs, a heavy metal door stood slightly ajar. Behind it, the faint glow of monitors pulsed like a heartbeat. Tobe motioned for silence. We crept closer, every step echoing. And then we saw them. Two men in Blackwell gear hunched over keyboards, their faces lit blue by the glow of screens. On one monitor was my name. On another, a countdown timer reading 00, 19, 12. Tobe's breath caught. Miles raised his weapon. Imani gasped. And then, as if sensing us, one of the men turned slowly in his chair. He smiled, cold and deliberate. You're just in time, he said. But the question is, are you here to stop the clock or to watch her die? The glow of the basement monitors painted everything in a pale, ghostly light. The hum of servers filled the silence like the low growl of a beast, steady and menacing. The countdown on the screen, 0, 19, 9, 12, seemed to pulse louder than the machines, each second dragging me closer to the edge of erasure. Two men sat at the consoles, dressed in dark tactical gear with the same Blackwell security insignia stitched across their shoulders. One had a sharp jaw and close-cropped hair, his hands resting casually on the keyboard as if he were composing a love letter rather than writing my death. The other was bulkier, bald, with scars crawling up the side of his neck. His arms were crossed, eyes fixed on us with the quiet patience of a snake. You're just in time, the one at the keyboard said, his smile slow and deliberate. But the question is, are you here to stop the clock or to watch her die? The words sliced through the cold air. My breath caught. For a moment, all I could hear was the tick of the countdown. 0, 18:59. 0, 18:58. Toby moved first, stepping slightly in front of me, his body instinctively becoming a shield. His voice was sharp, clipped, the voice of the soldier I remembered from his last day before deployment. "Step away from the console, now." The bald one chuckled, low and mocking. "You think this is some movie? You walk in, bark orders, and we obey? No, soldier boy. This script was written long before you came back from the dead." Detective Miles raised his weapon, his flashlight beam cutting across the men's faces. "Hands where I can see them," he barked. "Now." The one at the keyboard didn't flinch. His fingers danced over the keys with maddening calm. "I wouldn't do that if I were you, detective. One wrong move and the system reads her as deceased before the hour's up. All it takes is a single stroke. Poof. Naomi Johnson no longer exists. You really want that on your conscience?" My stomach dropped. The way he said my name, Naomi Johnson, wasn't just casual knowledge. It was intimate, like he'd been living with it, like he'd rehearsed it. My name was just another file in their collection. Tobe's voice darkened. "You touch that keyboard again, and you'll never touch another in your life." The bald one stepped forward a single pace. "You think you're scary, soldier? You're one man. We're an army, and armies don't lose to ghosts." The tension stretched thin, ready to snap. My body screamed to run, but there was nowhere to run to. My legs were weak, my arms heavy, yet my mind raced faster than it ever had. If I stayed silent, I was a victim. If I spoke, maybe I could tilt the balance. "What do you want?" I said suddenly, my voice steadier than I expected. Everyone turned toward me. The countdown ticked on. Railroad Warrant 1732. The man at the console smirked. Finally, the woman speaks. "What do we want? Simple, order, profit." "You were an easy mark, Naomi. No family close by, at least until your brother came crawling back. A husband eager to play his part. A system too blind to see abuse behind closed doors. We make money off that blindness. You were supposed to be line item number 7. Line item number 7. The words dug into me like claws. "And the others? The women before me?" He shrugged. "Gone. Their payouts already cashed. Some were accidents, some were encouraged. You should be grateful, Naomi. At least yours would have been quick." Tobe's fist clenched so tight I thought the bones would snap. "You're not walking out of here," he growled. The bald one sneered. "Neither are you." Miles's finger hovered near the trigger. Sweat traced his temple. "We don't have time for games. Step away from the system." The man at the keyboard tilted his head, mocking. "Tick-tock, detective. Do you really think you can stop the inevitable? This isn't just about her. This is about power, data, control. We can rewrite who lives and who dies with a few keystrokes. That's bigger than you, bigger than her, bigger than your little badge." 0:16:01. The folder in Imani's hands slipped slightly, scattering a paper across the floor. The bald one's eyes darted to it. Something in that look made my heart lurch. "Toby," I whispered urgently. "The papers. They're afraid of what's in there." He glanced back at Imani, then at the folder, realization dawning. The men weren't just protecting the console, they were afraid of exposure. Proof was their real weakness. "Imani," Toby ordered, his voice like steel. "Hold those papers tight. Don't let them out of your sight." The man at the console's mask cracked just for a second. His eyes flared with anger. "Those documents were never meant to see daylight. Hand them over and maybe, we let her live." "Lies," I spat. My voice surprised even me with its strength. "You'd kill me whether you had them or not. That's what you do, isn't it? You erase women like me and cash the check." The bald one sneered, stepping forward. "You've got fire, lady. Shame it's wasted." Tobe moved like lightning, shoving me back against the wall as the bald one lunged. The room exploded into chaos. Miles shouted, his gun discharging a deafening crack that sent sparks flying from a console. The countdown froze for a heartbeat, then resumed. Rapport your ton hearing 49. The bald one swung at Tobe, But my brother countered, his training alive in every move. They crashed against the wall, fists and elbows colliding like hammers. Miles wrestled with the man at the keyboard, who tried desperately to keep his fingers on the keys. Imani pressed herself into a corner, clutching the folder to her chest like it was her lifeline. And me? For the first time, I didn't hide. I didn't cower. My eyes landed on the syringe evidence bag one of the guards had dropped during the scuffle. My fingers moved before my fear could stop them. I snatched it up. "Naomi!" Toby shouted, glancing my way. I didn't hesitate. As the bald one slammed Toby against the wall, I lunged forward with all the strength I had left. The bag split against the console, the syringe rolling free. I gripped it in shaking hands and pressed it against the bald man's exposed arm. He froze, eyes wide, as the needle pierced his skin. The plunger went down halfway before he shoved me off, roaring in rage. But it was too late. Whatever was in that syringe intended for me was now inside him. His movements slowed, his face twisting. "You stupid witch," he slurred, before collapsing onto the floor, twitching. The console man howled, pushing Miles away and lunging for the keyboard again. Toby grabbed him by the collar, dragging him back. "Not today," my brother snarled, slamming him against the console hard enough to crack the screen. The countdown froze again. 13, 03. For a moment, everything stopped. The hum of the servers, the ragged breaths, the silence after chaos, it all hung in the air like the world itself was holding its breath. Then the console sparked, and the monitors went black. We all stared. "Did we stop it?" I whispered. Miles scrambled forward, scanning the dead screens. "No! The system's still live. They've got backups. They can trigger it remotely." He turned to the half-conscious man on the floor. "Where's the failsafe? Who else has access?" The man coughed blood, grinning even as his teeth stained red. "Too late. Noon will come whether I live or die. She's already a ghost." Toby hauled him up by his collar. "Who else is in on it?" he demanded. The man laughed weakly, spitting blood onto the floor. "Check upstairs. Your problem isn't down here. It's already been signed off by someone she trusts." My heart stuttered. Someone I trusted? The image of Nurse Alicia flashed in my mind, her gentle smile, her steady hands. Could it be her? Or Pastor Ruth, the woman I had prayed with for years? My stomach churned. 11:59. The countdown blinked on a small backup monitor in the corner. Alive and merciless. "We've got less than 12 minutes, Miles said. His voice was iron now. "If we don't find the insider and stop them, she's gone on paper. And once that happens, the payout goes through, and the real killers come to finish the job." Tobe turned to me, his eyes burning with a fire I hadn't seen since we were children. "Naomi, listen to me. They said it's someone you trust. Think. Who's been close to you? Who's been near your records, your life?" My throat went dry. The memories shuffled, faces blurring. Alicia, Pastor Ruth, even the social worker who had promised safety. Each one carried kindness. Each one carried risk. The red camera light blinked twice again, like a heartbeat, like a warning. And I realized, with a chill crawling down my spine, that the betrayal I feared most wasn't from strangers. It was waiting in the face of someone I had let close. The question wasn't if they were near. The question was who among them wanted me gone the most. The monitor in the corner glowed like a cruel moon. Ijero 11:58. Ijero 11:57. Ijero 11:56. Each second wasn't just time passing. It was the sound of a shovel digging my grave. The men from Blackwell lay on the floor, one unconscious, the other barely breathing. But their words clung to us. "It's someone she trusts." I sat on the cot in the isolation room once more, my hands shaking against my lap. My whole body ached from exhaustion, but my mind wouldn't rest. I kept seeing faces. The nurse who smiled at me, the pastor who prayed for me, the social worker who promised help. Every one of them had been close enough to betray me. "Naomi!" Tobe's voice broke through my thoughts. He crouched low, his eyes steady. "Listen to me. This is what they want. To shake your mind, to make you doubt everyone. But you know something. Somewhere in your gut, You've already seen the signs. Who's been too close? I swallowed hard, fighting back tears. I don't know. Everyone seemed kind. Everyone seemed, Miles cut in, his tone sharp. Trust is what they use. I've seen this before. Con artists don't lie with words. They lie with comfort. Think, Naomi. Who comforted you a little too quickly? Who asked questions they didn't need answers to? I closed my eyes. Images shuffled in my memory like cards in a rigged game. Nurse Alicia's soft hand brushing hair from my forehead. Pastor Ruth's whisper, promising I'd be safe in her home. The social worker's clipboard, her pen scratching every detail about me while her eyes flicked to my IV line. My chest tightened. Could it be any of them? Could it be all of them? Imani shifted on the cot beside me, her folder clutched to her chest. It's the system, she said almost to herself. Always the system. People move the system. Someone had to feed it the false codes. Not just anyone, someone who knows the right ones. Miles nodded slowly. Medical coding, insurance billing, hospital records. His eyes flicked toward me, then to the hallway. That means someone in administration. Someone like... He didn't finish, because just then, the door to the isolation ward creaked open, and in stepped Nurse Alicia. Her scrubs were neat, her face calm, her hands steady as ever. She carried a fresh IV bag in one hand, her clipboard in the other. My stomach dropped. Naomi, she said softly, her voice like a lullaby. I came as soon as I heard about the move to isolation. How are you feeling? The room froze. Tobe's muscles tightened, his hand twitching toward his belt. Miles shifted subtly, moving into her line of sight. But Alicia didn't flinch. She placed the IV bag gently on the counter, setting her clipboard beside it. You need fluids, she continued, her tone still gentle. Your scans show dehydration. Stay where you are, Miles ordered, his voice sharp as glass. Finally, Alicia looked up. Her eyes flicked to him, then to Tobe, then landed on me. Her smile didn't falter. Is this how you treat the person keeping her alive? Toby stepped forward. Drop the bag. Alicia's eyes narrowed. For the first time, her calm cracked. You don't know what you're doing. You think you've uncovered something big, but you've barely scratched the surface. If you want Naomi to live, you'll let me hang this line. Now. I stared at her, my heart pounding. The words of the Blackwell man echoed in my ears. Someone she trusts. Miles' weapon was steady. Step away from the counter. Alicia sighed, shaking her head slowly. You really don't understand, do you? This was never about her husband. He was just a pawn, a willing pawn. Men like Derek come and go. Weak, angry men are easy to control. But me? She placed her hand over her chest. I was the one who made sure the paperwork matched. The one who ensured the system saw her as already halfway gone. The words cut sharper than any knife. My throat went dry. Why? I whispered. She turned her eyes back to me. Because, Naomi, you were perfect. And because every system needs someone who understands how it breathes. Without me, Blackwell is just muscle. With me, they're gods. Not anymore, Toby said, stepping closer. But Alicia only smiled. You can't stop it. The trigger's already armed. At noon, her name disappears. You think dragging me out in cuffs will change that? No, it's already done. I felt the walls closing in, the clock ticking louder. 0:44. Then help me understand, I said, forcing my voice not to break. What do you gain from this? Why me? Why us? Her expression softened, not with compassion, but with condescension. You still don't see it, do you? It was never about you. You were just leverage. Leverage against others who would pay to protect themselves. Leverage against companies who look the other way. You were a name, Naomi, a convenient name. Rage welled in me, hot and bitter. For years I had believed Derek's fists were the story, but now I understood. They had only been the cover page. The real story was being written by people who saw my life as lines of profit. Tobe moved faster than I had ever seen. In one motion, he yanked the IV bag from her hands and shoved her back against the wall. Who else is in on it? He growled. Alicia laughed, breathless but unafraid. You think I'm going to tell you? You don't even realize. You've already lost. Miles stepped forward, his voice low. You don't understand, nurse. If that system executes at noon, it's murder. And I promise you, you won't see daylight again. For the first time, a flicker of doubt crossed her face. Her eyes darted to the clock. 08:30. I swallowed, forcing myself to speak. Alicia, please. You've been by my side. You've seen me at my worst. If you had any care for me, any at all, stop this. Don't let them win. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes glistened for just a second. Then her mask returned. It's too late, Naomi. Tobes slammed her harder against the wall. Tell us who can stop it. And then through the chaos, Amani's voice cut sharp. The backup system isn't here. It's upstairs. Records office. That's where the code goes through. Miles whipped his head toward her. How do you know? Amani clutched her folder tighter. Because that's what these documents say. Look, final authorization via records hub, level 3 access only. She pointed to a line highlighted in red. Toby's eyes burned. Then we're going there. Now. Miles nodded, dragging Alicia by the arm. She's coming with us. If she's lying, she answers for it. We moved fast out of the isolation room, back into the stairwell. Every step felt like it carried the weight of my life. The folder in Imani's hands was the only shield we had left. The only proof against a system built on lies. The climb to the records floor was brutal. My legs shook, my chest burned, but Tobe never let me fall. Miles kept Alicia in a firm grip, her calm unraveling with every step. Finally, we reached the 3rd floor. The records office door stood ahead, heavy and locked. A keypad blinked red. Alicia smirked. You won't get in. Only authorized staff can. Before she could finish, Tobe shoved her forward. Then you open it. Her lips curled. For a moment, I thought she would refuse. Then she punched the code. The door clicked. Inside, rows of filing cabinets stretched like a forest of steel. In the center, a desk with monitors glowed, and on the largest screen, my name blinked. Status, pending deceased, countdown. 00:06:12. I gasped. Stop it! Toby roared, shoving Alicia toward the desk, but Alicia only smiled. You can't stop what's already written. The seconds bled away, and I realized the only way to win wasn't just to stop the clock. It was to burn their whole system down. The hum of the records office filled my ears like 1,000 whispers. The glow of the monitors was cold, unfeeling, and there it was, my name flashing across the largest screen. Status, pending deceased. Countdown, 00:06:12, 00:06:11, 00:06:10. Every blink of the cursor was like a hammer on my chest. My entire life, every memory, every breath, reduced to a line of code, ready to vanish at the stroke of noon. Tobe pushed Alicia forward, his voice low and dangerous. Undo it, now! She stumbled toward the desk but straightened quickly, smoothing her scrubs with a calmness that made my blood boil. You don't get it, do you? She said softly, almost pityingly. There is no undo. This isn't a hospital file, it's a network. What's written here is written everywhere. I can't erase it. None of us can. Detective Miles stepped closer, his gun leveled at her. His voice was cold steel. Try, or I swear, you won't walk out of this room. Alicia met his stare. Her calm cracked, but only a little. You can kill me if you want, detective, but it won't stop what's coming. At noon, she's gone. And when she's gone, you'll never find the others. This goes beyond one woman. Her words sank deep. My throat felt tight. Never find the others. That ledger, the women with names and numbers, all already erased. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. Imani stepped forward, clutching the folder. She's lying. There has to be a way. Look. She threw a handful of papers onto the desk, pointing to one highlighted line. Backup authorization, records hub, level 3 access. This is the hub. That means someone here can override it. She's stalling. The clock ticked louder. 00:05:02. Naomi. Toby crouched beside me, his voice steady but urgent. This is your life we're talking about. You have to decide. Do we try to force her to reverse it, or do we destroy everything in here before the countdown hit 0. I looked at the monitors, the cold glow of my name blinking like a death sentence. I looked at Alicia, her calm face hiding venom. And then I looked at the folder. The one thing that proved I wasn't crazy, that this was bigger than bruises, bigger than Derek. My voice shook, but I forced the words out. Burn it. Burn the whole thing down. Alicia's eyes widened, the first true crack in her composure. No, you don't know what you're doing. If you destroy this hub, you destroy evidence, too. You destroy your chance to prove what was done to you? Miles' face twisted. He hesitated, torn between his badge and my life. But Tobe didn't hesitate at all. She's right about one thing, Naomi. If we nuke this system, we might lose the trail. But you'll live. And I'd rather have you breathing with no proof than dead with justice on paper. The countdown ticked. 0 or 4 were 17. Imani's voice trembled. Wait, what if there's another way? What if we copy the files before we burn it? Miles swore under his breath. 4 minutes isn't enough for a full transfer. Then not all of it, Imani snapped, her eyes burning. Just enough. Just one piece of proof. If Naomi's life is the price, at least don't let the others vanish with her. Her words cut through me. For years I had been silent. Now silence wasn't an option. If I let them erase me, others would follow. I stood, weak, trembling, but standing. Then we do both. Copy something, destroy the rest. Tobe's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Then that's what we'll do. The room erupted into motion. Imani scrambled to the desk, shoving a flash drive into the port. Miles covered her, eyes darting between Alicia and the door. Toby tore open a cabinet, pulling wires free, sparks flying. The countdown blared louder now. Row 0-1-0-3-21. Alicia lunged suddenly, grabbing for the keyboard. Toby caught her mid-swing, dragging her back with a force that rattled the desk. You're done, he growled, slamming her against the filing cabinet. But even as she struggled, Alicia smiled. A thin, sharp smile. You think burning this hub will save her? There are mirrors. There are always mirrors. You destroy one, another takes its place. The words froze me. Mirrors. Did that mean even if we destroyed this room, somewhere else, another countdown still ticked? Naomi, Imani shouted. We've got something. Look. She pointed to the screen. A file loaded onto the flash drive. Scanned copies of ledgers, payout schedules, names. The proof. But the other monitors still screamed my fate. Status. Pending deceased. Countdown. Surya Ryu. 02-14. Now, Toby roared. He ripped the last wire free. The monitors flickered violently. Sparks erupted from the desk. Smoke filled the air. The countdown froze at 01:59. For a breath, the room was silent. The monitors went black. The hum of servers died. The only sound was our ragged breathing and the faint hiss of burning wires. Alicia sagged against the cabinet, her calm finally gone. She looked at me with something like hatred. You think you've won, but this isn't over, Naomi. You can't kill a system, and you can't kill the people who built it. Miles yanked her arms behind her back, cuffing her with practiced force. No, but we can take them down one by one. Toby pulled me close, his chest heaving. His voice was softer now, but fierce with promise. You're alive. That's all that matters. Alive. The word felt strange on my tongue. But it was true, I wasn't erased. Not yet. Imani held up the flash drive, her hands trembling. We have proof. Maybe not all, but enough. Enough to show the world. I looked at the drive, then at the smoldering remains of the hub. My body was broken, my spirit scarred. But something new stirred in me. A fire I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was a witness, a survivor. And for the first time, I felt the weight shift. Derek and his mother, Blackwell's security, the machine that wanted me gone, they had built their world on silence, but I had found my voice, and I was ready to use it. The red camera light in the corner blinked twice, then went dark. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. But as the smoke thickened and the alarms began to scream, I knew one thing for certain. This wasn't the end. This was only the beginning. Because the people who tried to erase me weren't finished, and neither was I. What would you have done in Naomi's place? Risk everything to destroy the system, or gamble on convincing Alicia to stop the countdown? Tell me in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story so more people can hear it. And let me know where you're watching from. I love hearing your stories too. Smoke still curled in the air of the records office. The acrid smell clung to my throat, making it hard to swallow. Sparks fizzled from the console, wires sizzled on the floor, and the countdown that had haunted me, status, pending deceased, was gone, erased in the flames. I thought the silence after would bring peace, but peace didn't come. Instead, I felt the heavy truth settle on my chest. This wasn't the end. Imani clutched the flash drive like a lifeline, her knuckles white. Miles stood guard over Alicia, who sat slumped against the cabinet, cuffed but smiling faintly. That smile chilled me more than the countdown ever had. "You think you've won," she whispered. Her voice was calm, almost tender. "You've only delayed the inevitable. Systems don't die in one room. They grow back. And when they do, you'll see. Naomi Johnson will still vanish." Tobe snapped, his voice echoing off the walls. "Shut up." He dragged her to her feet, his hand clenched so tight around her arm, I thought he might break it. His eyes burned with the fury of a soldier who had seen too much. "Easy," Miles warned. "She's evidence now. She'll talk. Maybe not here, maybe not today, but she will." Alicia tilted her head, her smile widening. "Talk? You think I'm afraid of prison? Blackwell protects its own. The moment you step out of this hospital, you'll see how small you really are." The words made my stomach twist. I hated how much truth they carried. Before anyone could answer, a sound cut through the smoke, a slow, deliberate clap. We all froze. The sound came from the hallway beyond the office door. A familiar voice followed, thick with venom and arrogance. "Well done," Derek's voice drawled. "You've always had a knack for ruining my plans, Naomi. Even lying half dead in a hospital bed, you managed to meddle." My heart clenched. I knew that voice better than I knew my own. Tobe shoved Alicia against the wall and turned, his body tensing like a coiled spring. Miles raised his weapon. Derek stepped into the doorway, his suit wrinkled, his tie loose, but his smile, oh, his smile was polished cruelty. Beside him stood his mother, Mama Eve, her head wrapped in an elaborate gel, her eyes blazing with disdain. "Naomi!" Aoife hissed, her voice dripping with venom. "Ungrateful girl, we gave you everything. A home, a husband, a name. And this is how you repay us? By dragging us through dirt?" My knees wobbled. Rage bubbled in my chest. After everything, after the bruises, after the humiliation, after the coma, she still dared to call me ungrateful. Tobe stepped forward, his fist clenched. "One more word and I swear—" Derek cut him off, wagging a finger. "Easy, soldier boy. You don't want to do something reckless. Not with the world watching." Imani frowned. "The world?" Derek's smile grew. He held up a small device in his hand. A red light blinked at its tip, a live stream camera. "You didn't think we'd let you play heroes without showing the world your true colors, did you?" Derek said smoothly. "Right now, every second of this is being uploaded. Every word, every action. And when this hits the right ears, Naomi, do you know what they'll see? Not a victim, not a survivor. They'll see a deranged woman who destroyed hospital property, who conspired with her criminal brother, who—" "Enough!" My voice tore from my throat, louder than I thought I was capable of. My whole body trembled, but my voice didn't break. "You don't get to tell my story anymore, Derek. Not after everything. Not after you nearly killed me." The room went silent. Even the smoke seemed to pause. Derek blinked, just once, his smile faltering. But then he laughed. Low, cruel, echoing. "You think anyone will believe you? You're nothing without me. You always were." Something in me snapped. Years of silence, years of fear, years of making myself small. Gone. I stepped forward, past Tobe, past Miles, until I stood eye to eye with the man who had tried to erase me. "You're wrong," I whispered. My voice was steady, quiet, but it carried the weight of every bruise, every tear, every prayer. I was always something. You just tried to make me forget it, but I remember now, and so will the world. Imani held up the flash drive, her eyes blazing. And we've got proof. Proof of everything you and your people did. Try spinning that story. Eve's face twisted in fury. Lies, fabricated lies. Naomi, you witch, you've bewitched my son. You've turned him into nothing but shame. Tobe's voice cut sharp. He turned himself into shame. He stepped closer, his shadow falling over Derek. And now he's going to answer for it. Derek's mask cracked then. His smile faltered, his jaw clenched. For the first time, I saw fear flicker in his eyes. Just a flicker. Miles stepped forward, gun steady. Derek Johnson, you're under arrest for attempted murder, fraud, and conspiracy. Eve shrieked. You can't! He's my son! He's a man of God! A husband. No, I said firmly. He's a criminal. And he's done. The guards surged in, grabbing Derek and Eve, cuffing them both. Derek fought, cursed, spat, but it was useless. Eve screamed, her words twisting into curses, but no one listened. As they dragged him away, Derek turned his eyes back to me. His voice dropped to a hiss. This isn't over, Naomi. You'll never outrun Blackwell. They'll come for you. And when they do, I won't even have to lift a finger. The words clung to me like smoke. But as the door slammed shut behind him, something inside me finally exhaled. For the first time, I felt free. Tobe's arm wrapped around my shoulders, steady and strong. It's over, he murmured. I leaned into him, my body trembling, tears burning my eyes. No, I whispered. This chapter is over, but the story isn't finished. Imani held up the flash drive. Not until the world knows the truth. Miles nodded. And with this, they will. The smoke cleared slowly, replaced by the sterile hum of the hospital around us. For once, the air didn't feel suffocating. But deep down, I knew Derek was right about one thing. Blackwell wasn't gone. They would come again. And when they did, I would be ready. Because I wasn't just Naomi Johnson, the woman who survived. I was Naomi Johnson, the woman who fought back. The hospital felt different after Derek and his mother were dragged out in handcuffs. For the first time since I had opened my eyes in that sterile room, the walls didn't feel like they were closing in on me. The machines, the blinking lights, even the faint smell of disinfectant. It all felt lighter, as though a great weight had been lifted. But freedom is never immediate. Healing never comes in one breath. I sat in the quiet of the recovery ward, sunlight streaming through the blinds, painting the floor with warm stripes. Toby sat beside me. His broad frame slouched in a chair too small for him. His eyes, once sharp with fury and vigilance, were softer now, though they still carried the shadows of battles both past and present. Imani stood near the window, the flash drive clutched tightly in her hands as if it were the crown jewel of a kingdom. Detective Miles moved in and out of the room, speaking into his phone, giving clipped orders, updating whoever was pulling strings above him. I took a breath, slow, shaky. It's really over, I asked, my voice breaking slightly. Tobe leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. It's over for Derek, for his mother. But the war? No. Naomi, Blackwell doesn't end in one hospital. This was just the first battle. His words should have scared me. Once they would have. But instead I felt strength bloom where fear used to live. For the first time in years, I wasn't shrinking. I wasn't silenced. I want to tell my story, I said suddenly. Imani turned from the window, her eyes wide. Naomi, no, I pressed on, stronger now. They wanted me erased. They wanted me to disappear quietly, just another line in a ledger. But I'm not gone, and I won't be silent. If this flash drive has proof, then let it speak. But let me speak too. Let the world hear me. Imani's lips trembled, then curved into a smile. Then we'll make sure they do. Toby's hand found mine, strong and steady. I'll be right beside you. 2 weeks later, I stood on a stage in a crowded community hall. The room was packed. Women, men, young, old. Some had come out of curiosity. Others had come because whispers of Blackwell had reached them. And some I knew had come because they too carried scars that no one else could see. Reporters filled the back rows, cameras clicked, lights glared. My knees trembled, but my voice was steady. "My name is Naomi Johnson," I began. The room hushed. "Not long ago I was almost erased, not by death itself, but by a system designed to profit from silence, from pain, from women like me. My husband abused me, and behind him stood people who wanted me gone, not just from their lives but from the records of this world. At noon one day, I was supposed to vanish, but I didn't. I'm still here." A murmur rippled through the hall. I raised my chin. "And I will not be quiet anymore." Imani stepped forward then, holding up the flash drive. "This," she said firmly, "is proof. Ledgers, policies, payouts, all tied to Blackwell Security. This is bigger than Naomi, bigger than one marriage. It's a system that turns people into numbers, lives into profit, and it must end." Gasps filled the room. Reporters scribbled furiously. Beside me, Toby stood tall, his presence like a wall at my back. I didn't need to look at him to know he was there. I could feel him, my brother, my mirror, my protector. When the applause came, it was thunderous, but louder than the applause was the sight of faces. Faces lit not with pity, but with fire. Some cried, some clenched fists, some nodded as if they had been waiting for someone to say these words aloud. And I realized then, my voice wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to every woman who had been silenced, every person who had been told they were nothing. That night, as the hall emptied and the lights dimmed, I sat on the steps outside, the cool evening air brushing my face. Toby joined me, lowering himself onto the concrete with a grunt. "You did it," he said softly. I shook my head. "We did it. You, me, Imani, Detective Miles, everyone who refused to let me be erased." He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that carried pride and sorrow all at once. Mama would have been proud. Tears welled in my eyes. I thought of her today. I thought of how she always said we were mirrors. For so long, I couldn't find myself in mine. But now, I think I see her in me again. We sat in silence, the city buzzing around us. For the first time, silence wasn't heavy. It was peace. Weeks turned into months. Trials began. News outlets carried headlines about Blackwell Security. Arrests followed. Some powerful names fell. Others slipped away. The war wasn't over, but battles were being won. And me? I healed. Slowly, painfully, but I healed. The bruises faded. The nightmares grew quieter. And in their place came something stronger. Resilience. Derek was convicted. So was his mother. Their names no longer had power over me. They were just shadows fading in the distance. I moved into a small house not far from Tobe. It wasn't much. 2 bedrooms, a little kitchen, a patch of garden. But it was mine. Mine. For the first time in years, I felt safe when I closed a door behind me. One morning, I planted flowers in that little garden. As the sun warmed my skin, I realized something. I wasn't just surviving, I was living. And I promised myself then, I would never let anyone erase me again. The hospital felt different after Derek and his mother were dragged out in handcuffs. For the first time since I had opened my eyes in that sterile room, the walls didn't feel like they were closing in on me. The machines, the blinking lights, even the faint smell of disinfectant, it all felt lighter, as though a great weight had been lifted. But freedom is never immediate. Healing never comes in one breath. I sat in the quiet of the recovery ward, sunlight streaming through the blinds, painting the floor with warm stripes. Tobe sat beside me, his broad frame slouched in a chair too small for him. His eyes, once sharp with fury and vigilance, were softer now, though they still carried the shadows of battles both past and present. Imani stood near the window, the flash drive clutched tightly in her hands as if it were the crown jewel of a kingdom. Detective Miles moved in and out of the room, speaking into his phone, giving clipped orders, updating whoever was pulling strings above him. I took a breath, slow, shaky. "It's really over?" I asked, my voice breaking slightly. Tobe leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "It's over for Derek, for his mother. But the war? No, Naomi. Blackwell doesn't end in one hospital. This was just the first battle. His words should have scared me. Once they would have. But instead, I felt strength bloom where fear used to live. For the first time in years, I wasn't shrinking. I wasn't silenced. I want to tell my story, I said suddenly. Imani turned from the window, her eyes wide. Naomi. No, I pressed on, stronger now. They wanted me erased. They wanted me to disappear quietly, just another line in a ledger. But I'm not gone, and I won't be silent. If this flash drive has proof, then let it speak. But let me speak too. Let the world hear me. Imani's lips trembled, then curved into a smile. Then we'll make sure they do. Tobe's hand found mine, strong and steady. I'll be right beside you. 2 weeks later, I stood on a stage in a crowded community hall. The room was packed. Women, men, young, old. Some had come out of curiosity. Others had come because whispers of Blackwell had reached them. And some, I knew, had come because they too carried scars that no one else could see. Reporters filled the back rows. Cameras clicked. Lights glared. My knees trembled, but my voice was steady. My name is Naomi Johnson, I began. The room hushed. Not long ago, I was almost erased. Not by death itself, but by a system designed to profit from silence, from pain, from women like me. My husband abused me. And behind him stood people who wanted me gone. Not just from their lives, but from the records of this world. At noon one day, I was supposed to vanish. But I didn't. I'm still here. A murmur rippled through the hall. I raised my chin. And I will not be quiet anymore. Imani stepped forward then, holding up the flash drive. This, she said firmly, is proof. Ledgers, policies, payouts, all tied to Blackwell security. This is bigger than Naomi, bigger than one marriage. It's a system that turns people into numbers, lives into profit, and it must end. Gasps filled the room. Reporters scribbled furiously. Beside me, Toby stood tall, his presence like a wall at my back. I didn't need to look at him to know he was there. I could feel him, my brother, my mirror, my protector. When the applause came, it was thunderous. But louder than the applause was the sight of faces. Faces lit not with pity, but with fire. Some cried, some clenched fists. Some nodded as if they had been waiting for someone to say these words aloud. And I realized then, my voice wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to every woman who had been silenced, every person who had been told they were nothing. That night, as the hall emptied and the lights dimmed, I sat on the steps outside, the cool evening air brushing my face. Toby joined me, lowering himself onto the concrete with a grunt. You did it, he said softly. I shook my head. We did it. You, me, Imani, Detective Miles, everyone who refused to let me be erased. He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that carried pride and sorrow all at once. Mama would have been proud. Tears welled in my eyes. I thought of her today. I thought of how she always said we were mirrors. For so long, I couldn't find myself in mine. But now, I think I see her in me again. We sat in silence, the city buzzing around us. For the first time, silence wasn't heavy. It was peace. Weeks turned into months. Trials began. News outlets carried headlines about Blackwell security. Arrests followed. Some powerful names fell. Others slipped away. The war wasn't over, but battles were being won. And me? I healed. Slowly, painfully, but I healed. The bruises faded. The nightmares grew quieter. And in their place came something stronger. Resilience. Derek was convicted. So was his mother. Their names no longer had power over me. They were just shadows fading in the distance. I moved into a small house not far from Tobe. It wasn't much. 2 bedrooms, a little kitchen, a patch of garden. But it was mine. Mine. For the first time in years, I felt safe when I closed a door behind me. One morning, I planted flowers in that little garden. As the sun warmed my skin, I realized something. I wasn't just surviving, I was living. And I promised myself then, I would never let anyone erase me again. Family, you've walked this journey with me, through pain, betrayal, survival, and victory. What lesson do you take from Naomi's story? Have you ever known someone who fought to reclaim their voice after being silenced? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if Naomi's strength touched you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story so it can reach someone who needs it today. Because silence is where the enemy wins. But when we speak, when we fight, when we stand, we win back not just our lives, but our futures. And this was only the beginning.